This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I trust today this will be like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart, and wherever you receive podcasts from. Would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom and leave a rating and a brief written review? And you can do this wherever podcasts are found. And if you will take the time to leave a rating and a brief written review, it will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to find this podcast. Please help spread the word along. Thanks for joining today. Under the leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more, let's talk about the whole lot more today. I was having a conversation just this week with someone about some side hustles or side gigs, as they're called. And this is maybe one of the great untold stories in the United States economy right now, are all of these side hustles, the gig economy, that people who are gainfully employed are finding other ways to create and use the skills and opportunities that they have in order to bring in some more income, or they do it for all sorts of reasons. I just received a note from a young man who I met with. There was a time when I was saying I would be happy to coach some people, and a few people signed up, and one of those, young man, he and his wife have paid down in the last, I'd say, year and a half, an incredible amount of debt. And one of the ways that people are doing that is they're coming up with some side hustles. And I saw the response because he posted it on my Facebook page, and I was amused at one of the responses that said, to pay off that much debt, you must make an incredible salary. What people don't understand, that debt is just like investments, but in reverse. There is that what Albert Einstein called the greatest magic in the world is compound interest. And unfortunately, most people in my country have compound interest working against them. If you are maxed out on credit cards and auto loans and student loans and all of these others, that interest makes it larger all the time. Whereas if you're doing some investments, that compound interest is working to your advantage. So what looks like enormous amounts of debt that is paid off, and it is also the power of, if you're paying that down, then compound interest has less of a base from which to build. Now, you might think, why in the world would you be talking about side hustles and the gig economies and doing something different? I'm doing it for a couple of reasons. Now, I've already mentioned and alluded to the fact that there is a financial component to it that you ought not just throw off and not look at. But the other thing that I want you to think about is you have a lot more to offer than you think you do. The problem is we only see oftentimes our problems, and we don't see our opportunities. We only see where maybe we feel like we're lacking, and we don't see some of the really gifts and graces that we have. So there are all kinds of ways in which you can use your talent, your gifts, your know-how, your experience, and even your time. And there are lots of reasons to do this. You might more easily explore, is this an avenue? Is this an area where I would maybe want to go into and perhaps even leave what I'm doing now? Well, in the old days, you just had to kind of jump into the deep end of the pool, quit your job, and to see if this new endeavor you were going in was working. One of the great things about the gig economy and developing a side hustle is you kind of get to do a little bit of what I would call a practice run to see, once I'm actually doing it, is there more involved in it than I thought? I think a lot of things look easy from the outside, and especially if people do something well and almost effortlessly, we believe that we'll be able to do it effortlessly and as well as they. Are there kind of some unforeseen things, some hang-ups, some pitfalls that I don't see from this particular vantage point of today? Now, let's say you're someone that you just need to create a better cash flow. Well, Maybe you could rent out a spare room on Airbnb. I mean, that has both pros and cons, as all of these do. Um, there are people who are running errands for people on an app called TaskRabbit. Survey Junkie and others are places where you literally get paid for taking a survey. Now, you're not going to become a millionaire doing that, but it does give you some cash. You can, now I couldn't do this because I am the most non-mechanically inclined person that I've ever met. But there are people who, if you buy IKEA furniture, you can receive, just get online and look. They will come, and for a price, they will put that desk, they will put that chair, they will put that item together, and that is their side hustle and their side gig. The part of the world where I live, where it snows, you don't see this very often, but it used to be that neighborhood children for a few dollars would come and offer to shovel your driveway to help get your car out of the drift, or other people would do that. Also, in the same day, there are people who would come and offer to mow your lawn and to take care of those sorts of things. Now, there are people who obviously that is their full-time job, but there are also people who just do 2 or 3 or 4 lawns just as something to do and a little side hustle. There are people right now who are purchasing and selling domain names. There are people who have gotten into coaching. It's something that I've looked at. I kind of enjoy it and go back and forth, that especially in years where maybe I will slow down and retire a long time from now, that I might do that. There are people who write. They write articles for pay. They're writing books. And right now there's just been an explosion in self-publishing and Amazon and other places, and you can turn your books into an Audible book. And again, there's ways you can get paid. There are people who are Uber and Lyft drivers and Uber Eats. Anytime that I go into a grocery store, I see it almost feels like an army of people who are purchasing items for people to either pick up at the store or to then go and deliver them to the people. There are people who will pay you to do their shopping for you, and you pay them a little fee. I mean, the sky's the limit. If you're a seamstress, you can sew for people. I mean, this is not as new as it sounds. People have been doing these sorts of things. One of the things that just seems that people are having these multiple jobs. They have what we might call the main job and these side hustles, and they may be like what some people are doing to pay down debt. It may be a way that they are setting some money aside for retirement or to pay for certain things. And again, there are some employers who don't discourage it as long as it doesn't interfere with the workday, because it's obvious that all of our skills go into different kinds of areas. I'm a liberal arts person. Most of my degrees would be in that field, and at times when we see people who are using their mechanical skills, their ability to fix things, their ability to do other things, and we think, well, I can't do that. But regardless of where you are today, there are certain skills that are so transferable that if you're looking for a job, your boss will appreciate it. For instance, if you were a music major or you were a liberal arts major, I heard a person one time say that if you finished a degree, I at least know one thing about you, unless you are the luckiest person who's ever lived, and that is the fact that you are able to manage time. Artists, anyone. You're able to manage time, and there's nowhere where that isn't a valuable set that you could have in your toolbox. If you can bring projects in under time and under budget, if you know how to work with deadlines, if you know here's what I have to do to get things done. The other thing I've noticed about people who are working at a regular vocation and are doing a side hustle or something in the gig economy is you learn you learn how to deal with pressure because you're juggling some balls, you're doing some certain things, and they learn that they have to live within a time frame. They have to set some limits for themselves, and you have to remain calm. If you're going to be hysterical and run around and say, I'm way behind, I'm never going to get all of this done, that's not going to be helpful. The other thing that I've noticed about people who are balancing a job, their family obligations, a side hustle, is that they have to become quite diligent. You have to get out of bed in the morning and you have to get things done. You have to pay attention to details. They used to say that the devil is in the details. Well, I want to tell you, God's in the details. The details are going to determine whether you're going to make it or not. And so I would just say to you, it could be an opportunity. This is what I really want to say. I'm not saying go out and get lots of side hustles so you can bring money in. This is even beyond that. I think it's a wonderful time to be alive in which you can actually explore passions that you have. And the people who are the most happy, the people who seem to be the best adjusted right now, are those who are working in some areas of their passion. And rather than quitting your job, if you have a family to support, you have bills to pay, you have obligations that you can't get out of, no one can, then I would not say just throw in the towel, have faith, go out and hustle and work hard, but maybe begin to explore that in a certain time period in which you may be able to change. But the worst thing that could happen, it would seem to me, is to quit your job and go to what you think you want to do and discover, oh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't imagine that you'd have to get involved in all of that. So a side hustle allows you to develop a passion. And when you have a passion, you usually have skill sets and things about it that you're already good at. And before, again, you just throw everything away and say, we're going to go that direction, you begin to say, maybe this is to prepare me for the future. Maybe this is just for a short window of time, like my friend who had a significant amount of debt that he needed to pay off. What I'm basically trying to tell you today, leaders, is quit feeling like you're stuck and you have no options. I'm not saying today is an option for everyone, and it may come across to you as pure nonsense. But the fact of the matter, quit walking through the world as a helpless person. There are options. You have options. And perhaps part of that option is you may need to begin to branch off and to think about doing some different sorts of things and maybe using other kinds of skills that one of these days could become a full-time opportunity for you. So I just want to say there, have you thought about, have you explored the option of looking into a side hustle, a different career move? If you say you're stuck and you're miserable, well, then you need to explore ways to get unstuck and to quit being miserable and to become a little more contented. And I just sort of believe you have more going for you than you think you do, and there are some things you could do that the world is desperately in need of. You have been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. And I trust that today this has been like a vitamin or a supplement for your mind and heart. And wherever you receive podcasts from, would you please subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? Leave a rating and a brief written review. It will enable other excellent people just like you to be able to locate this podcast. Now, my leadership friend, I always say to you, you're doing better than you think you are. You really are. But I would also today like to add another challenge to that. Are there some things that you need to explore to help you get unstuck? May you take some time to think about, is there something I can do to change the trajectory of where I am and what I'm doing? Do I have skills and talents that I could use perhaps to get out of debt, perhaps to get ready for my future, perhaps for an entirely different future of vocation and it's up to you. So remember, try it, explore it, think about the possibilities. And until next time, my leadership friends, this is Dr. Ron saying have a great and blessed day.